Stanley Flex from SecondsOut here with our old pal, Dominic Ingle, although not in Sheffield for once. We're actually down in London, London. Stratford to be precise. We've just had the press conference announcing a variety of things from Frank Warren's stable, including that your fighter Billy Joe Saunders is going to be stepping up to super middleweight to fight for the vacant WBO title up there. What did you make of the move and how's it come about? What was your input?
Well, no matter what what weight Billy fights says, he's actually stepping down to make them weights, whether it's middleweight or super middleweight. I think it's a well-known fact that he likes his food in between fights. But it's a good move, when he's coming up for fights at middleweight, he's always sparring around about 12.5, 12.4. He looks really fast, really good in a healthy place, and it is a struggle to make the middleweight limit. And after a year out, it's going to be even more difficult. He can make it, but in the time frame we've got now, which I think is about 8 weeks, he's going to make the weight more comfortable than he would make in middleweight. So I think it's a good move. It's the right opponent. I haven't seen too much of the guy. He just looks like a tough guy, the German or whatever he is, or Serbian. Yeah, Serbian that way. Billy can't underestimate this guy. He's got to be on his toes. He's looking in great shape now. If you look at him, at the minute he's having bacon and eggs for breakfast, and he's on a high fat diet, and he's stripped himself off maybe 6 or 7 pounds in the last couple of weeks. He's looking good. Recently we've had him sparring with a guy who's just defended his cruiserweight title in Belgium, a guy called Yves Ngubou. And that was an interesting spar. You got a big guy there at 14.5 stone sparring Billy, who was probably at the time was about 13 stone. And you can see, the guy thinking this Billy Joe Saunders is a smaller weight division than me. But Billy's a very skillful guy. So it's a great move on Frank Warren's behalf, to get Billy straight back in for a world title at a higher weight division. It's going to be interesting times there because we've got some good champions there. And I do actually fancy Billy Joe Saunders against, Callum Smith. I think it's a great fight if it can be made. And I think Billy Joe Saunders got the beating of him.
Why do you think that? What is it about the style matchup that you think favours him?
I've seen George Gross fighting Callum Smith. I've had guys sparring Callum Smith, Bob Joseph a few years back. I think Billy's got the style to beat him. But it's going to be a good fight. He's a good fighter. But I think he would struggle with the types of Billy Joe Saunders on form. So I think it's a good move for Frank if he can win this, WBO title at super middleweight and then get a unification fight with Callum Smith. That'd be perfect. It'd be a fantastic fight.
It's interesting you mentioned Callum Smith as a potential fight because it seemed more like Billy was being pushed towards, if he wins this, pushed towards the winner of Eubank and De Gale, and they're not the biggest super middleweight, so it would seem to favour him a bit more.
No, I think he's beat Eubank anyway, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. But to be honest, they're not. I think the fight where Billy's at this moment in time, I think I know he's on a different network and he's a different promoter, but I think the fight. And it can be done. I think the fight, if Billy wins that fight, is, put him in with Callum Smith straight away. Because, Billy's 29 days, coming on for 30. Callum Smith's up there as well. I think he's heading the same way. And I think, let's get these fighters in the prime. Let's not wait for 1 or 2 years down the line. Look at Eubanks and De Gale 3 years back. It would probably be a better fight than it was going to be on Saturday. But let's see what they both got. That fight could probably be made quite easily, the winner of that with Billy. And it's not a fight I think Billy had turned down, but I think the fight, what would be very interesting is the Callum Smith fight.
A lot of people are going to ask, Billy was installed as mandatory challenger at middleweight for Demetrius Andrade after all the controversy before around their fight being aborted at short notice. Why wouldn't Billy stay at middleweight and put that to rest and fight Andrade?
Yeah, I think I can remember coming up to that fight and Billy said there's something not right about this fight. All these things are going wrong, the visa, the VADA situation. And I can remember him saying, it's like there's a reason why I shouldn't be fighting this guy. And now the fight can be made. Billy's on the wrong end of the purse split as well. So he's not in that position where he's going to get paid a load of money. I mean, Eddie Hearn gave him a good deal for that fight. He was a champion. It was a good purse, but that's not going to happen this time. So you've got to weigh that up. And at the end of the day, Billy's not getting younger. They've got to make the money, and they've got to be in the big fights to motivate them. And I think, there can be big fights made at super middleweight for Billy. And I think he's got a smart boxing brain. He's got a smart business brain. It's a good move. Like I say, beat this guy and look for the bigger fights. And like I keep saying, Callum Smith is the fight that I think Billy should have.
And would you like to see him stay at super middleweight long term, or would you like to see him drop back down to middleweight in the future?
I think once you've moved up, it's only one division. We had Kell Brook move up from welterweight to middleweight, and he's dropped back down to light middleweight. I think mentally it's difficult once you've been at that weight to go back down again. And like I said, Billy does operate at super middleweight. Even if he boxed at middleweight, he would be getting in the ring at 12.5, 12.6. It's a very good fighting weight for Billy, no matter what the other guy weighs. So for Billy to be making super middleweight, it's probably in his favour, really. He'll have a lot more in the tank. He's still very fast. He's even stronger at super middleweight. And he's got the boxing style he's got. You know, he's very elusive in what he's got. So he's not losing anything in speed, but he's gaining in power. So it's all pluses for Billy at that weight.